Okay, so hello everybody. It is Friday. It is Cosmotronic. I am sitting here like wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and almost slight fangirl mode. Slight not because, you got to be analytical about these things, but at the same time, can I just say Papalicious squee lore. Welcome to Cosmotronic, everybody. We did start late today because we wanted everyone to have a chance to catch up on the live stream from PAX for the WildStar panel. They had all the good names there. Pink. Yeah. But I'm not alone. Mizpah, Lucky, the bastard that he is, was actually at the PAX panel, probably sitting right there going, woo! I will mention, Mizpah does have the phone number to call in to our meeting today, so maybe we'll be lucky and actually have him calling in with some people from the panel. Who knows? But I'm joined by Gazzy.
Hello.
And poor Kai, unfortunately, has been struck by the train disease. Trains are being evil, and in fact, she won't be home till really late. So sadly, she is going to miss joining us tonight. But, okay, I have to ask, before we go any further, favorite part of the panel?
Oh, that was a tough one for me. Part of it was the whole reveal about the Drusilla. I don't even know if I pronounced that right. The enigmatic ghosts lady. All the quest lines involving her. In fact, I did take notes. I should read my notes.
Gazimoff was
Drusera.
incredibly effervescent. It's Drusera. While yeah. Gazimoff was taking notes, I was sitting there going, oh, ooh, ah, ee. Like when you're watching fireworks go off, that kind of a thing. Oh, man. Yes, those raid failures, absolutely hysteric. If you're going to fail, fail spectacularly. If you're going to succeed, succeed with one person alive and 4 health. That's what I'm going to say.
Yep.
But yes, before we go too far, let's give a great big hello to everybody who is watching us. It is just nuts. And I'm going to tell you, in order to get questions answered by us, your best bet is to actually put a Q and a colon and put your question in, and we'll be able to pull your questions in. So for example, we have Sickness Gaming going, hey, does anyone know if there's going to be a collector's edition? Gazimoff, I'll let you take this one real quick.
Okay, so there is not going to be a collector's edition officially. Per se. There are 2 editions that are coming out. There's the regular edition and there's a deluxe edition. Those are both available in physical and digital versions. There's also a special version if you're one of the lucky people in Europe. For those, they're doing a limited steelbook edition of the deluxe version. So it depends on where you are and what you're after.
Like the mouse pad, the Chewa mouse pad was from Sweden.
Yes, so certain distributors and certain retailers are going to be throwing certain extra goodies in. But in the main, there's going to be the regular edition and the deluxe version. And part of that was because, well, they didn't really want to offer a collector's edition that's either too limited in numbers and sells out really quickly, or probably floods the market. I mean, how often have you walked into a computer game store and found stacks of World of Warcraft collector's editions, for example? Not really what you want to happen. So rather than doing that, they've said, well, we'll just throw in some extra digital goodies, bits and pieces like that in the digital edition. And then if people want to get additional swag, they can do it like at PAX East. You can pay, I think it's $18 and get a Rouse Tower. So yes, things like that instead, which I think is a better way of doing it, to be honest.
I have to agree with you there. I mean, I have to state Pseudo, which is not me. It's a completely different spelling of my name. But Pseudo has made mention of you looking debonair in your suit, might I add.
So I have, okay, so I do several different things. So sometimes I talk about video games. And sometimes I have to work, and yes, so I work.
Wait. Are you trying to imply that talking about video games is not work?
Well, yeah, but so I have 2 jobs. By night, I write about computer games. I talk about computer games. I live computer games. By day, I work in the City of London. Hence,
I thought you were going to say by day, I'm Batman.
Yes. Not quite.
Okay, follow-up question for you. And this is about the extras in the deluxe edition. Now, there is on WildStar's website. In fact, I'm going to pick one of our regular viewers, and I'm going to pick on you, Jarodar, because you are Link Master tonight. If you could get for Sickness Gaming the link that explains what comes into the digital deluxe edition, that would be great. I will tell you, Rocket House. But yes, and Pseudo, I was on Pseudo's podcast. Sweet. Pseudo and yes. But yes, we did have another question. Why is throwing money at my screen not working?
Well, you can throw money at us, but it wouldn't really do much, would it?
I was going to say, they haven't exactly made money MIME compatible yet, so it's not like you can... Well, we're not even going to get into a Bitcoin debate. I don't even want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But they're...
As someone who has played around with how to do online credit card transactions, let's not go there. It's not pretty.
Yeah.
However, if you do want to throw money at the screen, then head over to WildStar Online, and they will gladly take your money as a pre-order for WildStar. The pre-orders are open. If you do pre-order, you get a load of pre-order bonuses that are really worth it, and you can also get early access to the game as well. So I think it's 3 days head start as well.
Yes, plus if you help by logging in during the beta weekends, you get even more stuff.
Yes, you get boomboxes as well.
Boomboxes, which...
Yep.
Oh, yes.
So interesting. I mean, you get 3 boomboxes per day that you log into the beta, and each one has a chance to have all kinds of random loot in, like weapons, like armor, like dyes, like boosters, like housing items. Like if it's in the game, it's probably in there. It's unlikely to be pinks. I mean, you'd be really lucky if you get the pinks.
I have a feeling they're going to save the pinks for for a specific location. Their actual real question though, because that was kind of them being proper trolly. Because honestly, I have thrown my money at the screen. I have bought, and this will let people know just how excited I am about the game, 4 steel boxes.
Yep.
4 on the day that they announced or they released pre-order. I was all like, click, 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 mine. But their question in specific is it too early to say if WildStar will go free to play after a while, kind of like Terra did? I'm going to start this by stating there needs to be a really solid understanding of the way Jeremy Gaffney thinks, because he has made, in my opinion, very clear from the beginning, even before they announced what the actual model was going to be for the game, that he has a certain opinion on how payment structures work for a game or don't work for a game. Yeah,
completely agree with you. I sat down with Gaffney at lunch in Brighton, and Caillou Dream, who's one of our co-hosts, actually recorded the whole lot. Yeah. So you can find that in 3 episodes, I think it is, on YouTube, and it's well worth having a watch. And it was recorded last year, but it's still pretty relevant. And one of the things I asked him was about why is this whole controversy around payment models? And he said basically it's because everybody has one that they don't like. So some people don't like subscriptions, and some people don't like free-to-play games. And I can understand the pros and cons of both. I mean, with the subscription, you feel that you're tied in if you want to play it, and you're kind of beholden on the developer to feed you content as and when they feel like it, whereas you have more control over how much you invest in the game with it being free to play. But the problem with free to play is that, first of all, you get every person and their dog playing it, and they're not necessarily invested in the game. They've just spent a couple of hours downloading it. And the second is that the developer motivation is around making things that people want to buy rather than releasing content that people want to play.
Right.
So I can kind of appreciate that side of the coin as well. So with WildStar, what they've got is a split model that's the same approach as Eve, where you can, if you want to, pay for a subscription, and that's all you need to worry about. Or you can buy game time using prepaid cards, and they've actually just gone up on Amazon and various other places now. They're selling them in 15-day, which is unusual, 30-day, and 60-day segments.
I kind of
But you
like
can
that
also,
though.
yeah, I mean the 15-day one, that's like just over a fortnight.
Well,
It's
think
strange,
about
but
it. Think about the student who knows
mhm,
for a fact that if they buy, a
mhm,
monthly subscription, they are going to have their grades fail. And yet
yeah,
they know they've got a 2 week holiday coming up. They can just go buy
hmm,
that 15 quid or the 15-day purchase and just play for 15 days
yeah.
and then put it down. It's also a way to nanny your children. Just saying. But yes.
But there is also the option that you have of buying cred, which is different to a prepaid time card where you buy a
Yes.
cred and that cred is worth 30 days of subscription time. And you can then put that on the auction house or the commodities exchange to be technically correct.
Yes.
Someone else can then come along using in-game money and buy that 30 days of game time and apply it to their account. So if you're really good at earning gold, you've got plenty of time to play, and you're just a little bit, you can't really afford a subscription, then this is a way of paying for the subscription. So you can almost make the game free to play for you. And if you've got a lot of time, or if you don't have as much time to earn that in-game gold, but you're a bit better off and you can fork out for cred, then you might buy a cred or two and put them on the commodities exchange for people to buy. It's a system that's worked really well with EVE Online, and it survived in that game for about 5 years. So it's
Mm.
great to see it being picked up by others as well. The reason why I don't think it'll do what Terra did, which was start off with a subscription and then go free to play,
Or
is
Tor.
because, or SWOTOR, is because of something that Jeremy Gaffney hinted at just on the live stream just now. And that is that the entire game is intended to have monthly content updates. So
Mm.
that means that if you're playing it either for the lore, or if you're playing it for PvP, or if you're playing it for dungeons or whatever, every month, I'm not saying every month there'll be something in it for you, but every month there'll be some new content going out, which is
Right.
an interesting way of looking at it. And that's the whole thing where I think they're going to have to earn the subscription. So I think that should be an interesting one to look at.
I do. I have to agree. I don't believe they can go that route because otherwise you'd have to quote unquote buy the latest patch to really
Hmm.
make it a viable solution. I mean,
Yeah.
one could argue that they do it in Guild Wars 2 with the Living Story. They do their
Mhm.
2 week iterations and cadence policies, and it works. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I think with what they're bringing here, I mean, Guild Wars 2 doesn't have the full scape of content that WildStar is trying to bring to the table. Speaking of, Search King goes, will it be quality content?
So
That's.
Guild Wars, yeah, Guild
Mm,
Wars 2 managed to pull it off by having um, twice weekly updates, and they've been practicing releasing new content every month for the past 6 months. So I don't think this is something which is kind of new to them. They're not going to just suddenly launch and then flip a switch and say, okay, we're now in post-launch mode and we've got a ramp up to do once a month. So when I spoke with Mike Donatelli a year ago now, he said that he had a plan of content that stretched out in detail for about 6 months and in rough form for about 18 months after launch. And that was early in 2013. So
mhm.
since then, chances are those plans have been fleshed out an awful lot more anyway. And they've been practicing rolling out new content every month for the last 6 months. So I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem as people think. I think that people have looked at the Blizzard model and people have looked at the SWOTOR model and gone, this is not good enough. If you want a subscription from us, you've got to give us something back in return. And that's why it's something that's kind of been baked in from the ground up with WildStar.
Yes. That's pretty much Eaton had made mention of the fact
Mhm,
that they have stated that they have 15 months worth of content planned. Now, I will
mhm,
add, when it comes to quality content, what's quality to one person is not necessarily quality to another. Let
mhm,
us say that 1 month it is very heavy in PvP. you know, either a new battleground gets released or a new arena starts or a new season starts, or they've just made some huge tweaks to war plots or something like that. It may not be for you, but something is always going to be coming out. And I like that. It's kind of beautiful. Now we have another question, and this is from T Arctic 1. Are there territories to control, sort of like political systems or something? World PvP, I'm going to jump out and say, Bardic, bless the lady. It is so, I'm just going to state this bluntly, lovely to see a woman PvPer in charge of a PvP system. Just saying, because they were stressing, let's not be sexist. Well, I like the fact that there's a woman in charge. But they have actually stated that where they have, they haven't exactly decided where they want to have the world PvP systems in place that have maybe something you need to accomplish or things that are driving people to a PvP thing in open world until they've actually seen where people gather and do that, and until they've seen what has occurred. Then maybe you'll have something that, you know, you have to accomplish a task, or, you know, maybe you have to hold a certain tower. I don't know. They haven't brought that in yet. We're just now getting into war plots, so...
Yeah, so they had a PvP week where they flipped the servers into a PvP rule set, which was really interesting. And
a lot. People hunted me down.
I went hunting a lot, which was great fun. But the key thing about it is they want to have a look at where the conflicts arise. So again, going back to World of Warcraft, where your kind of South Shore Taran Mill moments are. And instead of trying to dissuade players from that or say, no, you can't do this anymore, they're actually going to try and build around that. So make them more, have more purpose around them. So once they find the hot spots and the sweet spots where conflict is happening on open world PvP servers, they're then going to start saying, well, what can we do to put objectives around this and stuff like that, which is a smarter way of doing it.
Objectives. That's the word I was looking for that I just could not come up with. We have another fantastic question, and this one I'm going to kind of squeal a little like the little girl that I am. Watt would like to know, will there be endgame content unlike some of the games that have come out lately? Let me start off by saying the executive producer, Jeremy Gaffney, is on record, and it is a common quote that we'd love to hear from him stating, the easiest way to piss away billions of dollars in game development is to produce a game and launch it without complete endgame content. Now, one of the things they have been stressing from pretty much the get-go is 40-person rating. That is in there. War plots is meant to be done at max level with 39 of your friends. Close friends, unless you're Pappy and Frost, in which case they're only friends to each other. But there is going to be endgame content. And as you saw from the PAX panel, they have people testing it. They said this particular group, this is their first time they went in. Boy, did they fail spectacularly. And then there's another one where someone was going through and doing, and they succeeded fantastically as well. So you have people testing it. So this is where I can actually say, guess what, folks? For those of you who are worried that endgame content was not being tested, there's your proof. But yes, endgame content is going to be in at launch. One thing that is not going to be in at launch, but is being set up to be, is this Elder Gem thing. Do you want to take a moment and kind of explain a little bit about that?
So this is a little bit complex. So the short answer is that you earn Elder Gems once you hit level cap. So once you get to level 50, instead of gaining XP, you earn Elder Gems. And
instead of gold.
Instead of gold. So there's a little bit of a concern that, okay, what's the story behind these Elder Gems? Because there are some amps. Amps are basically the equivalent of talents in WildStar. Some amps require Elder Gems to unlock. Some consumables, no, not consumables, some things like mounts require Elder Gems to buy and stuff like that. And it was like, why are you going to have to spend an awful lot of money, a lot of Elder Gems on these bits and pieces, and they're going to take an awful long time to unlock. So the whole thing is that post-launch, they're putting in an Elder Gem system for introducing various methods to earn Elder Gems, which can be earned through any piece of content that you would normally get from XP. This is from Mike Donatelli's post on the WildStar forums. So filling your Elder points bar will grant you an Elder gem up to a certain weekly limit, but post-launch they'll be adding methods to get more Elder gems. So these are things like weekly quest options, daily quests, boom boxes, and more as well.
You just have to sit there and go, daily quests. Oh.
Yeah,
Weekly quests. Oh. I know so many people who are kind of past that daily quest. However, I will be really curious to see how they implement them, because that's going to make a huge difference. And as Gazi and both Izgu in the chat had pointed out, it's there at launch, but not in its full form. But I kind of appreciate that, because it does mean that they actually have a further chance to have everyone who rushes in the front doors after throwing money at the screen to really break everything, and they can fix things and then bring the next iteration out.
Exactly. The other thing is that if you think about it the other way, that if they release a system where Elder Gems are really easy to get hold of, and within a week everyone's unlocked everything they could possibly want with Elder Gems, then your system's broken, but you can't wind the clock back.
No, you can't.
You can always make it really strict and then slacken it off slightly if you need to, but it's very, very difficult to go the other way. And quite often people will be heavily opposed to it, because then it feels like you're rewarding the people who got in early. So there's that to consider as well.
Yep. And bless you.
Excuse me.
Poor Gazi, looking debonair, sneezing. I think he's allergic to me. T Arctic 1 says, will player actions affect the story and events in game?
Ish.
It's one of those things, you know, as if you had a chance to watch the PAX panel, Chad Moore, who I will forever be a proper fangirl of, love you, Papalicious, you are amazing. But Chad Moore pointed out, if you want to learn more about a story and have it sort of on a linear sequence, you can do these new dungeons, of which they're going to be bringing out. And it is, based on what we're hearing, really potential that these are going to be part of the content updates that we will see. You'll get more and more information about the story. It's the only thing that I think is incredibly personal to you, among all other things, is just really how you choose to play your path. You deciding, I'm not going to help this quest person is not going to make or break the game. Unlike some games that are trying to bring that kind of gameplay in. Although, in a way, some of them negate it, because if you're in a group, even if you've, say, killed the person who's supposed to give the quest, you can still pick a quest up from them because your friend can share it to you, which negates the entire I'm having an impact on the world to begin with. But you don't really change much.
Well,
it's...
I will kind of give my tuppence worth there. So this is a theme park MMO, and it's unashamedly a theme park MMO.
Very much so.
It has some sandboxy bits and pieces, but there are things like housing plots where you can build your own house and decorate and stuff like that. That's not sandbox in terms of open world, change the shape of the world and stuff like that kind of thing, on the micro level. If you want something like that, then EVE Online, really good. Would definitely recommend going in there and getting blown up on a regular basis. But that's not what WildStar is about. However, that's the micro level. If you want to say, can you affect it on the macro level? Well, there's nothing to say that if the players are moving in a particular direction or dig a particular aspect of the game, that the developers, who are always listening, won't respond to that. And Chad Moore's a classic example of that. I wouldn't be surprised if he says, well, the players are really digging this set of characters or this particular faction or stuff like that. Let's write more content about those particular people, or let's flesh out that in more detail and drop it into the game. I can quite easily see that happening.
Yes.
Just like you've had with Guild Wars 2 and their living story. Yes, there's been a general story arc which has been built up, but I wouldn't be surprised if that has been heavily influenced by fan responses by the community and how they've responded to particular characters. Like the complete absence of Chahern.
I will also throw in, I think you kind of got your terminology a little backwards, and we can debate this if we wish. But on the microcosmic level, you do impact the world, or at least the world is changed subtly for you. If you complete a certain amount of quests, say a quest that takes down a shield generator of a shield over a city, well, guess
Hmm.
what? For you, that shield is now gone. For your friend who
Yep.
hasn't completed the quest, it's still there. So there is
Yeah.
subtle environmental things that you can notice on a microcosmic
Yes.
level.
Yes.
That's about the real gist on that one.
Yeah. And that's all done through phasing, and their method of phasing is a little bit more sophisticated than the ones that I've seen in other MMOs.
Mm.
However, what I was talking about was you can't say start digging a hole in the world and
And yeah.
mining it and stuff like that. So you can't, on a personal level, affect it beyond things like digging mining nodes or cutting down trees and stuff like that, and its particular mining nodes and tree nodes and stuff like that. So your opportunity to influence it on a micro or on a personal level beyond things that have been predetermined, pretty minimal. But on a
Yes.
macro level, much more options there.
Yep. Bring more LOP information, please.
Mhm.
Thank you, Pappy. Love you. Now, there was made mention by Search King about an interest in figuring out what the solo endgame is supposed to be like. Now, this is
Mm.
something that has been hinted at a long time ago. It has kind of gone quiet, and we haven't heard much about it since. Um, it's one of those things where when they did make mention of it, it was,
Mhm.
hey, you want to do some kind of raid content or some kind of true endgame content, and it's gonna be hard, and you want to do it
Mhm.
alone, we will set up a way for you to do it. You can gear up in it, and it can kind of help you bridge a gap, say, between veterans and raiding if you so want to do it on your own to prep yourself up for your guild or what have you. But again, it's been kind of silent. We haven't heard too
So,
much on that. So, what's the latest there?
okay, so there are two elements. First of all, um, as soon as the rerun of the Twitch live stream crops up, I would definitely recommend going back and reviewing that, because there are these things, the Drusera instances. Now, before cap, these start cropping up level 35 plus, and they're effectively story instances that describe why and how the Elden disappeared and what's going on about all that. And it introduces this concept called the strain, which is something which I've been kind of wary of mentioning too much in my own lore articles that I've written, because it's
Speaking
kind of,
of, for
yeah,
those who are interested in the latest in Gazimoff's writing on lore, he has done another step into the lore, and I love it when he does this because I'm a lore girl. In case my complete obsession with Papalicious is not clear enough for you. But I'm going to link for you his latest piece in
mhm,
MMORPG. Definitely worth a read.
mhm.
Yes.
So the whole thing about the strain uh, is that it's kind of like a bioorganism where if people can get corrupted and infected by it, and if it touches anything, then that becomes corrupted and infected by it, and there's a little bit of a hive mindy thing going on as well, and all this kind of bad stuff. And the Elden were trying to work out how to deal with this threat, because it's like, how do you kill this thing? And that's what you start discovering from level 35 onwards from these Drusera instances. However, they're going to continue post level cap as well. So this is the thing that Chadmore revealed on the Twitch stream, that after level 50,
Mm-hmm.
you can expect to have regular episodic installments of these instances that continue the story onwards, about not just what's happened, but more about what you are going to be doing to try and resolve it, what you're going to try and do to help fix Nexus almost. And that's much more interesting. It's continuing that solo story, and for solo players who want to get involved in the world, that's going to be fantastic. So the PvPers will still get their battlegrounds and their arenas and their war plots. The Dungeoneers will still get their dungeons, and the Raiders will still get their raids. But you, the story fans, will get these Drusera instances that drop in on a regular basis as part of this continuing and evolving storyline as they go forward.
Absolutely. And to be perfectly honest,
Mhm.
When trying to build an MMO, especially a sandbox MMO, you can't please everyone all of the time, and the worst thing you can
Mhm.
do is please all of the people none of the time. But what I do believe that WildStar is getting is a balance relatively correct. There are
Mhm.
some things that still twerk my brain a little bit and make my head go, why? But we'll get into those soon because we have had an incredible influx of questions. So we're going to try to go through them as quickly as possible and make certain they get as fully answered as possible so as to not keep everyone here until midnight.
Mhm.
Because Gazzy may look awesome and debonair in his suit, but we do want him to get his beauty sleep as well.
Mhm.
So what I'm going to do is I am going to hit up. First, I want to ask you, Sickness Gaming. You asked the question, why get this game over one of the other MMOs that are out there? And you've had quite a few answers from the people who are currently in channel because you did ask for viewer response. Might I also add, those of you who are answering, you guys are amazing. This is one of the reasons why I love the viewers of MMOBuff because you guys are just like insanely awesome.
Mhm.
But I'm going to have a very big challenge for Gazzy. In one sentence, why this over another MMO?
Because of the potential that it creates. And just to expand on that, when you buy, when you get into any other game or any other MMO that I've played recently, and I'm thinking about things like SWOTOR, I'm thinking about things like Terra, even to a certain extent, I'm thinking about things like Guild Wars 2. You've kind of bought this pre-packaged microcosm where everything is already built and arranged and stuff like that. And it's almost like they've built this kind of single player RPG as an MMO. Elder Scrolls Online is a fantastic example of that. It's great single player, but the MMO stuff, sadly lacking. WildStar takes a little bit of a different view. Okay, the way it tells the story might not be the best because it doesn't have everything voice acted, because voice acting is expensive and time consuming, and to get good quality actors you can spend a fortune, and it means that if you ever need to add new content or patch the thing, then you've got to get them all back to re-record new voices. You get the idea. So the main issue is that they're going for something that is scalable, something
Mm-hmm.
that is easy to update, something where they can drop in new content regularly, something where they can build a world that evolves and changes and is adaptable to the players. And that, I think, is much more compelling to me as an MMO fan than something like, say, a RPG that I can play with a couple of mates because, well, I could just mod Skyrim for that.
I just want to point out your one sentence answer is spectacular. Oh, it turned into like one paragraph. It could have turned into two because you're notorious for two things. For me, the reason why this game interests me, because I'm going to say to anyone who says, why should I play WildStar? Honestly,
Mhm.
I can't tell you why you should. All I can tell you is why I would. And it's up to you to make the decision. Is this
Mhm.
the type of game you want to spend your money on, spend your hours on, play with your friends? It sits entirely upon your shoulders. I know some
Mhm.
people who are so excited about Tor still that they'll never touch another game. I know some people
Mhm.
who are so excited about ESO, they'll never touch another game other than ESO. And I know people who bridge the gamut and like to play all of them. For me, WildStar, one of the number one reasons why I've been drawn into WildStar, it's not just the game, it's the community. There is something to be said for an active, engaged involvement with the developers, along with the active engagement that you find in the community. Yes, we do have our trolls here and there, but for the most part, this community blows my mind out with how supportive they
Mhm.
are of each other, of how much everyone tries to ensure that people get the right information. We have so many people who are trying to make the community as powerful as it can possibly be and as
Mhm.
positive as it can possibly be. And honestly, that alone has made boatloads of differences for me. Granted, I could easily say 40-man rating is good, 40-person rating, whatever, 40-pixel rating. There, okay? We're rating with pixels. So 40-pixel rating is going to be something that totally like makes my toes curl. War plots, after watching that war plot dev speak, bring it on, bring it on. But in the end, a community can make or break a game for me.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you,
that is why WildStar is... I have found my guild through WildStar. I have found some of my best friends through WildStar. It's the community.
One of the things that surprises me, and this is more so about WildStar than I think any other MMO that I've tracked recently. So I'm the WildStar columnist on MMORPG.com. And that's one of the kind of game journalism hats that I wear. And there's Persistent Worlds doing the same thing at 10 Ton Hammer. There's Elliot Lefebvre, who I really think I've just butchered his surname.
I was just about to say, we're gonna get an email. Gazimoff has butchered my name.
Yes. Who does the same thing at Massively. And there's Cyglaive, who does the same thing at Zam.com. And we are all kind of talking with each other and just catching up and geeking out about the latest news we've discovered. Because although we're working at competing outlets, we still kind of are interested in this game that we've been following, some of us, for about 3 years now. So I find it fascinating.
I find it fascinating because when you talk to developers, especially like they said on the panel, we're here to obviously try to get you to buy our game. Yeah. They are so straight talking. I mean, they asked, so how difficult are these raids meant to be? Well, we designed them to cater to the hardest top % players. But that's not all they've done. Everyone needs to remember, and people, I think, forget this. At end game, when you go in to do these raids, they change every week. One raid may have, I think, 36 bosses available to it, and only 6 are going to show up, and even that is going to be randomized as to what time of mobs are around and what kind of situations you're going to find yourself in. One week you might have to deal with a volcano exploding, the next week you might have to deal with a blizzard, the next you might have to deal with some kind of whirlwind. They have made it so that 1 week your top 1%ers are going to be only ones who can take something down because they're that organized, that structured. They've been doing this for a long time. They have that kind of flexibility. And then the next week, even the most casual of friends could walk in and potentially take it down. But there's contests for timing as well. I mean, yeah.
Yes. So, and it's not just that. It's the fact that server first won't really mean very much because it's changing every week. But the framework and the setup is going to be synced across all servers worldwide. It means that not only are you competing against that week's set of challenges, because it won't change, but you're also competing against every other raid group across the world to get things like server best for that week. And it might be clear at the fastest. It might be fewest deaths, it might be least amount of damage taken, it might be most amount of damage caused. It could be anything. We don't really know what the kind of challenge of the week is going to be, but that's the kind of thing that they can do. So trying to rush in and say, okay, we've all got to level cap, we're now going to zerg dungeons and get server firsts, that won't matter much. And the other thing is that if you get on that top leaderboard, then you can expect bonus loot from it as well. So,
yeah, I almost want to jump into the pink, but we're going to hold off on that for just a little bit because we do have some more questions we want to get through. Okay, USMCO93 says, what is this battle plot stuff all about? Can you go into depth? And also, is there anything in place to stop peeps from getting into the game in max level on the first day in 15 hours and then talk trash how there's nothing to do and the game will suck? Now, there are multiple questions built into this, but I wanted to make certain that we got all of your questions, USMC, because in all honesty, it is important that we answer as many as we can. I'm going to start off by saying, Trying to get to max level in 15 hours is going to hurt. Because I don't think it's possible. They've been constantly tweaking the leveling curve from beta, closed beta to open beta. They're constantly tweaking it. And if you decide to, say, go do PvP and then mix it up with some dungeons and then mix it up with some adventures, mix it up with some questing, soloing, grouping, it's going to be all over the place. But even with open tagging, which is built into this game, even with open tagging, you cannot go in, tag a mob once, and run and let an entire group try and kill it. You can't do that kind of leveling. It's not possible because you literally get credit for what you've done. So
now, you might get kill credit for the quest
yes.
if it's like kill 15 rats, but if you only did like 10% of the damage, well, congratulations, you get 10% of the XP for killing that rat.
Now, this is also to make mention, they're still trying to balance out how to basically do this and group questing along with having healers involved, because healers aren't going to be doing a lot of damage. So should they be penalized for it? And no, they shouldn't. And the Carbine team is still tweaking this. They've made leaps and bounds. Many people have watched some of us streaming and gone, why is it that when you're doing the same quest with one of your friends in a group, you're 36% complete and they're 100% complete with that quest? And that is something they're still tweaking. So patience, my friends, on that one. But yes.
That's why beta is beta, and the next 2 months are going to be polishing the crap out of it and squashing those bugs and doing all kinds of balance. But yeah, so I reckon that if you are really, really dedicated, you could probably hit level cap in something between 4 days and a week. But that would be very intensive, doing nothing but WildStar, and it would be a case of literally just focusing on questing through everything. That's not really a good idea, because it means you're very, very blinkered about what's going on, and you miss out on a lot of stuff. There's a huge amount of stuff to discover in the game world, which it's really worth just going out there and exploring. The other problem is that if you kind of zerg to level cap and you've got none of your mates with you at that, what are you going to do? Because you need more friends to do veteran mode dungeons. Yes, you can do cross mode LFG, or cross realm LFG, but it's better to do it with friends. You're going to have to wait for everyone to get up to level cap so that they can do questing as well. Oh, and there's these thing called attunement quests for the raids as well.
And
so
imbuement for your weapons. And
yeah,
I mean,
it's if you really zerg it up there, then it's going to be lonely at the top. I can tell you that much free of charge.
Yeah, free of charge. I like that we're now apparently charging here on Cosmotronic.
Well, I am going to charge for my advice. I was playing some tabletop game earlier, so I've now decided to switch careers and become a rules lawyer.
Great. But to go back to the previous question you had about battle plots, it's actually called war plots. Yes. Now, here is the kicker. Here is the real killer about war plots. The dev speak has just been released. Just released. Or I should say broadcast, because it's not quite released, but
well,
for the very first time.
Yes, and it's not a dev speak, it's a flick.
Sorry, it's a flick.
Yes. A flick. So Carbine do two things. They do flicks, which are the things we just saw, which are kind of an animated cinematic type thing made by the cinematics team
with the engine,
huge, made with the game. Oh, they're so good.
They're really good.
And they're talking about releasing machinima tools as well, maybe. So that could be cool. And dev speaks are where you get Stefan Frost talking about the game, narrating over particular mechanics or functions or stuff like that. So this was a flick, just talking about how war plots are. So the idea behind war plots are you have 2 war plots, each staffed by 40 players, and they duke it out against each other. So you schedule a match, and you grab things like dungeon and raid bosses that you've captured, plugs that you might have bought, things like nuclear plants, things like missile turrets, things like laser cannons, things like orbital defense satellites, you name it, you can go for it. And you literally just drop these 2 things on the ground and then you duke it out against each other.
Some
and
have,
the winner...
I was gonna say some have said that it's kind of a little bit like, oh gosh, chess.
Yes.
But it's not like you have pieces on the board that you
Mm-hmm.
move that way. But no, I
Yes.
just like the fact that they did. So here's the thing. They've just now started talking about war plots. Now, we have known for quite a while that if you do something like veteran mode dungeons or some raids and things like that, and the bosses themselves drop, you can pick up those bosses and put them into the war plot so people can place them down into the war plot. I love the fact that PvE can give to PvP. Now, I want to know what's the reverse. What is PvP war plots going to give to the PvE group? Are they going to be able to say, I don't know, if they win, they give a buff for a week to let people run a little faster to maybe reach some of those targets? I don't know, but I'm dying to find out because the truth is, it can't just be a one-way street. Nothing with Carbine is.
Mm. So yes, I think that it's going to be a case of things like materials, other bits and pieces like that, possibly rare crafting components and so on that would probably drop. One person's Sickness was asking, will he get beta access if he pre-orders from GameStop? Yes. Make sure you get a card from them with your pre-order code on the back of it, which you can then go to WildStar's website with, type it in, and bam, you've got your pre-order registered, and you can get into the early access and the betas and so on. So things like the beta weekend coming up next weekend, you'll be able to dive straight into that.
And again, as a reiteration, NDA has been lifted. Stream all you want. Don't feel like you can't. Share it with the world. Build the most awesome house you have ever built and share it. Go forth and stream Walatiki Temple. Go to Storm Talon's Lair. Go do all of that stuff and share it with the world. That's the thing. You have that ability. You've paid. It's yours. Have fun.
Yep.
So
if you've not played the WildStar yet before, you can start PvP from level 6. Dungeons start at level 20. The level cap has been raised to 20, and I would say play around with a couple of classes, play around with a couple of different factions as well. You've got the Exiles and Dominions, so find something that works for you. Drive up to 20 and do some dungeons, because the stuff that you saw in the raids, the level 20 dungeons are mild compared to that, but a really good experience.
I just realized we made a mistake.
Hmm?
You know how we were asked, is it possible to change the story? It is, in one place. Adventures.
Yes.
In Adventures, you can actually choose your own adventure. And you can make it so that, hey, you decide to do the warrior path type of stuff, which is much more fighting style, or the explore path where you jump over obstacles and you take a certain path. You control the story. So technically speaking, there are aspects of the game that you have complete and utter control over.
Yes.
Kinda.
And you can do them again and again and again.
And do it differently every single time if you so desire. You can make one impact, which will affect another impact. In fact, if you haven't seen the adventure video, it's well worth it because you get to meet the angry caretaker. And if you don't know much about that, you can check out MMOBuff. We have this brilliant article that was written by Gazimoff that is all about building the angry caretaker. Amazing. But moving... Go ahead.
So should we actually talk about some of the stuff that they revealed during the live stream?
Well, let me throw out a whole bunch of questions that we've got, and then we will hit that.
Okay.
Because we don't have to answer these in 100% like dissertation style, although we do kind of like to do that. But the Tick wants to know if I can get Mizpah to pick him up a Rouse Dower. God only knows with Mizpah. We'll see. Etten says, when a 5-year-old starts crying because you can't log into WildStar, what do? That is easy. You give them a cookie and snuggles and let them hug your Roused Hour plushie. All things are sorted. And then if you're really good, you teach them subtle ways to kill Chua. Just saying. I'm waiting for Gazzy to go, what? How varied can you make your build? we'll get into that in a moment because that's a huge topic. We did see some answers from everyone, but we will let ourselves expand upon that. What happened to expeditions, those scalable 1 to 5 man dungeons that you were put onto your housing plot? I can tell you with a certainty I have one on my housing plot in beta.
They're still there?
They're still there. In fact, mine was rather hysterical because I grabbed Guildies, walked into it, and kind of went, okay, what do we do? Holy jumping puzzle. And 30 minutes later, we were still doing the jumping puzzle. Because for real. T. Arctic would like to know, do you think war plots will be sort of like guild houses? Is it just a random war between chosen players? We'll touch on that in a moment. And what makes me keep playing? What makes me 48 hours nonstop whilst getting, or playing 48 hours nonstop while getting fat? And T. Arctic, I think that's a question you'll have to answer yourself. I think I just grabbed it because you put a Q in front of it. I can't answer that for you. So basically what we've got now is a coverage on war plots as to their impact. We have some questions about how the builds actually work. And there is a lot to be said there. If you haven't seen our previous episode last week, Gazimoff and I kind of prove why cookie cutter builds will not be 100% viable 100% of the time in WildStar.
Yes.
In fact,
so if you're I was going to say, if you're interested in the limited action set, if you really want to dig into that debate, then we talked about it at length in last week's episode, which is on YouTube.
Yes, youtube.com/MMOBuff, and it is in the full episodes for Cosmotronic. But yeah, we go into depth. This, like I said, it's one of the things we love about this game, is the fact that if you really want to be good at what you do, you don't cookie cutter, especially if you've got 39 other people in a raid with you. Yes. It just doesn't work that way. So yes, and the war plots and expeditions, well, the expeditions are adventures, aren't they? Or did I just...
So, expeditions are things like a plug that you put onto your housing plot.
Oh, that's right. We covered that.
Yeah. So, expeditions plug you put on your housing plot gives you a mini dungeon to go through with either yourself or with some mates as well. A bit like ship hands, but you go into them from your housing plot. But yeah, the really interesting stuff that I want to talk about from the stream that just happened. The Pax Panel that just happened. So I'm going to dig into this, and I'm going to try and go through it quickly because we are nearly out of time already.
Yes, we want to try to answer all of the stuff, do all of the things at all of the time, and that's a little hard to do when he looks so dashing.
Okay, so the first thing is itemization. So you have your greens, which are uncommon, your blues, which are rares, your purples, which are epic, your artifacts, your legendaries, which are orange, and then your artifacts on top of that, which are pink.
Yes.
So it's going to be all about getting the pinks. Now, artifacts seem to be weapons rather than anything else.
Oh God,
but
why did they have
the
to go that
key
way?
thing is that legendaries, so epics are going to be from the 20-man dungeon, legendaries are going to be from the 40-man raid, Datascape, but the artifacts are going to be rare as heck, and they're going to have a massive imbuement thing. So imbuements are where you get a weapon and it's got a load of almost like mini quests, like do this, do that, do the other, and for each imbuement that you unlock, it gains a new ability. Like it might be do this, get this, do all of these things, get this really tasty proc at the end of it, and each pink weapon is going to have a unique proc. So they're going to be really useful. And one of the things that Chris Lynch mentioned was that they've got the possibility of adding new imbuements to artifact weapons. So if your artifact is getting a bit stale towards the end of the life cycle, and you think, well, it could do with having a little bit more oomph to it, then they might just whack a new imbuement on it and make it relevant again. You might have to do a bit of work to get that, but it's definitely a possibility. But yeah, there's all kinds of things that they can now do. But if you're interested in really the top-notch weapon, and they showed one on the live stream, it looks so good.
The thing is, I said this to you because we were watching the live stream together, and I saw the artifact, and I went, wow, the design of it makes it look like an Elden artifact.
Yeah.
So even on the lore component, it all kind of works well together. Eaton asks, legendaries have imbuement properties too, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to tell you the very first set of pistols I went after, because I'm playing a spellslinger currently, had an imbuement questline in it. And the imbuement questline was for spellslinger guns that I got off of a sort of hidden back alleyway quest that you required a scientist to kind of do some crazy things with. And I got it at I could only wear them at level 19, I believe. And the actual imbuement quest included killing Storm Talon. That was one of the last things that had to be done. So I can pretty much state with a certainty that it just ain't artifacts.
No.
It is also worth noting, it's worth noting the Elden game, in order to get into raids, you will still need to do an attunement quest chain. And they are epic. So don't level up too fast, folks, and leave your friends behind. Because if your friends aren't there, and if they aren't there, then you can't do raids. Or I can't think of something that rhymes with that to make it match like the safety dance song. But, there you go.
So the other thing is, it starts right back. I was doing Walatiki Temple at level 6 on a stunt tour. And I got from winning the battleground, I got a bag of loots which contained a chest piece. A blue chest piece, I think it was a level 10 chest piece, with a imbuement on it where I had to snatch 5 masks from the enemy base and bring them back to my base. So that's another example of an imbuement, but that's it's a rare item.
Yeah.
And it's at level 10, so these are going to be scattered all the way through the game. So don't think it's just an end cap thing, it's all the way through.
It definitely adds changes and variety. I will tell you, though, I'm going to work really hard to try to have a pink weapon. Or pink gear. I wonder if they're just going to limit it to weapons or if they're going to actually bring it to gear as well.
I think it will just be weapons.
Probably.
And I think it will be things like, so if you've heard of Thunder Fury, I think it will be a little bit more common than Thunder Fury, so everyone can get something pink. But I think that it will be still, if someone's got a pink weapon, it's you talk about it in revered tones.
Yeah. Or where they're at in their imbuement process as well. I can see people getting that beautiful sword, that artifact sword, and one person having it and another person having it, and there's like this little race on the server to see who's going to get the attunement or the imbuement quests done faster. Ooh, he's 3 out of 7. Ooh, she's got 4 out of 7. Who's going to get there first? It adds a whole nother level of competitive play, which will be interesting to see, especially if they decide to team up and do it together, which hopefully they will, unless they're on opposing sides, in which case kill Chua.
The other interesting thing is the game has now gone gold, which means they are now pressing discs with the game on it. It is still going to have a day 1 patch. So as soon as you install the game, you will have to patch it. That's a given with MMOs. But they are now printing discs and producing boxes of the game ready to ship to stores. It's up to you whether you want to buy the physical edition from places like GameStop, or if you want to buy the digital edition direct from either... In fact, you can get it from WildStar directly, or you can get it from places like Green Man Gaming as well. It's entirely up to you which method you prefer, but it is now kind of being printed.
I also will remind everybody, pay attention to the region you purchase your key for.
Yes.
Pay attention to it, because if you buy from the EU side because Steelbox and you want to play with your American friends, you still need to buy an American version of the game.
Yes.
This is one of the downsides of what decisions they've made. We've discussed in a previous Cosmotronic our opinions on that, on why we know they have done it, and it can kind of be slightly annoying, but it's an acceptable threat mitigation, risk mitigation in a lot of ways, and that is perfectly okay with us. It still kind of rubs raw, but pay attention to that. And if you do find yourself in a situation where you go to import a key because you've bought your key and it goes, hey, this is a valid key, but we can't apply it, get in touch with customer support. They'll work with you and they will do things like, hey, let's change their account to the other region. It's a one-time dealio and you will be stuck in a currency that is specific to that country. I had to help a friend of mine through that, so I know what that is all about. But remember that.
Yes. There's one other thing which I've just noticed, and this is something that Token Micus has kind of reminded me of. Token Micus.
Token Micus.
So,
hey, Token.
You know, in other MMOs where you have to collect the top of a staff, and then the bottom of a staff, and then 40 pieces of the staff itself.
Are you talking about this druid staff out of Nax?
I'm talking about Atiesh.
Yes, the staff out of Nax, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't a druid staff.
It depends on what kind of druid you were playing. Why is it that no matter what game you and I discuss, we end up like on opposing teams?
So yeah, it's the mage staff that drops in Nax in pieces. It's instead of having really long questions to actually build something, I think Carbine have done it right by twisting it around and saying, okay, you can start you get the item, which is great. Really low drop rate, but you get the item. Fantastic. But you're going to have to work at it to make it everything it can be. I think that's a fairer way of doing it rather than teasing people with breadcrumbs from a pink loaf. Instead of saying, here's the whole pink loaf, now work on making it better.
Now you can get the icing to go on it or the butter and jam, depending upon what you want to do, or if you really like Marmite, you can put it on there. I also like the fact that, I mean, we had mentioned this previously because it was announced through the PAX panel. If you really like those fancy-dancy guns that are pink, you will probably have a chance to keep them forever because like one of the biggest problems that I had, at least loot-wise within World of Warcraft, was those legendary pieces. When somebody got them, when someone got the Hand of Sulfuras, I think that was what it was called, I can't remember. But when someone got that two-handed macy thingy, or whatever it's called, my brain just completely...
Sulfurous Hand of Ragnaros.
Yes, Sulfurous Hand of Ragnaros. It was brilliant, but they got it just before the next expansion came out. And they're like, it's great, I got it, but in all honesty, it's not viable. And I kind of miss the fact that I've put all this hard work into it, and I cannot get it.
Yeah. So the other thing that's really cool, apart from being able to chuck new imbuements onto a weapon, onto a pink weapon, an artifact weapon, so that it becomes more powerful as and when Carbine wants it to, that's cool. The other thing is, as and when it does become obsolete, you can chuck it in the costume slot and apply that on any other weapon that you like. And I think that's a nice touch. So if you've gone through the effort... Not
any other weapon. I'd say any similar weapon. You can't turn a sword into guns.
Well, you know what I mean.
You know, but hello.
You know what I mean.
Hello.
You're being pedantic.
I am being pedantic, and that's just okay. I have to fill Miss P's role somehow. But hello, having mannequins in your house to store your gear. It's woo. You know what I want to do now? And this is slightly off topic, but slightly on topic. I want to take those mannequins. I want to get a whole bunch of them, and I want to build this gigantic party, and then I want to dress all of them up, and I want to make it look like people actually live in my house. Like I've got roommates or something.
Kind of creepy. Yeah, that's definitely kind of like spooky, you know?
That makes me wonder, though. Do they have different size? Well, you can make the mannequins different size, because anything you put on your housing plot, you can kind of resize unless it's a plug, in which case you're kind of stuck with it. So you could, technically speaking, guys, you take those mannequins, shrink them down really tiny so that you can see what it would look like on a Chewa.
I wonder how small they scale down to. Could you have like a little doll spell slinger?
Oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. Now I want to actually design on my land a chess set out of these mannequins and, make all the pawns Chewas because they're tiny. Put like a whole bunch of Chewas in, plus pawns are quick and easy to get rid of them. The disc says you can't resize them. Darn it. Darn you, because
you know what you could have? You could have, instead of a chess set or something, you could invite your mates round, to your house in game and play tabletop with your little mannequins on the tabletop in
Oh
game.
my gosh, that would just be great. So you could do like Warhammer 40K or like, you know, some of the other there's a lot of games that actually use figurines, and that would just be crazy. How awesome would that be? But like I said, slightly divergent.
Yeah.
Slightly divergent, but it's just the concept that this is a possibility is, I think, why we keep going back to why we're so excited.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
Ceridamar says, will there be any system that allows one-click change, gear, armor, weapon upgrades with one key, similar to AMS/LAST setups?
Okay, so there's nothing in game at the moment that does that, from what I have seen. There's a couple of things around costumes that allow you to do that, or to change costume, but nothing around gear sets. However, I would not be surprised if there's already an add-on that will do that for you. WildStar supports full add-ons. We're talking full lure, code it, have fun with it, stuff like that. And there's already a ton of them available, which you can download using the Curse client.
Or you could also go to WildStar NASA.
Yes.
Which is run by Packet Dancer and Viper, I believe. Mm-hmm. Amazingly gifted. They even have tutorials on how to write stuff.
Yes.
But one of the things that, as a coder, as a developer myself, one of the other things that makes me squee about this game is the fact that the entire UI, and I mean the entire UI that is presented to you at the start in default, is an add-on. Each individual piece is an add-on that was written by either a member of WildStar's team or, you know, people who have been helping out, like Packet Dancer, etc. They kind of get accepted into the core of what things are. But they're all add-ons. So if you want to know, how do I change the color of my health bar from red to pink, you can literally just go in and open up what they've written, check and see if they've got comments, and see, do they use hex or do they use RGB. I mean, how do they do it? And you can do your own modifications. I mean, that is just, from the start, they knew that people were going to tweak things, and they allowed for it, supported it, and it's Apollo, and oh gosh, what is the
Houston?
You say Houston, I say Houston. Houston. It's an American phrase, Houston. But yes, just add-ons, brilliant. They're there. If you can't find what you want, I can guarantee you soon will. Like I said, the community is insane. Someone makes a casual mention, and all of a sudden you get like the craziest things produced. And again, the community working together to bring enjoyment to all of us. So, yes. Everyone's going to tell me how to pronounce this now. This is great.
Well, I will kind of say that Houston, UK existed before Houston, Texas. So I would like to think...
Houston. That comes from Mellowist.
It's like we have a place called... that's spelt Towcester. It's pronounced toaster.
Well, that's the thing. In this country, there are a lot of weird things. For example, Lincolnshire. Let's just say language is weird. I want to quickly tackle this other question from Ceridamar, because I do believe it's important for people to be aware of how this works. Can you explain the API XX versions of game add-ons? Some add-on creators complain about some restrictions for their products. I guess the best way to start is for me to back up and go, this is a little bit about development when it comes to developing an API. So there needs to be a little bit of a foundational lesson in how to build an API, and then we can explain why versioning is so important. But go ahead. I'll let you lead this one.
Okay. So over the course of WildStar's development, there have been a number of API versions released. Way back in the dim and distant beta, there was API version 1, and I think currently we're on API version 4 or 5, I think.
I thought we were on 6.
Are we on 6? Oh, good grief. Shows you how much I've been keeping up to date on API
Ooh,
development.
I can't remember.
So, yeah, so we've had a number of different API versions to blame that have been released. And I think Packet Dancer is to blame for most of the feature requests that have gone in there. And John Wiseman, Bitwise, Mr. Black Rousdower himself, is the guru behind doing a lot of the code work for that.
Mm-hmm.
The important thing is that as WildStar has API versions updated, some new features get added. Some features which haven't worked out properly might get either changed or removed completely. But here's the thing. In order for a add-on to work properly with WildStar, it needs to be compatible with the right API version. If you've got an add-on that's out of date, just like in other MMOs, it might work, you can try, it might not work, but you can still try. And if it doesn't work, you can say, well, okay, I'll deactivate it. The important thing is for add-on developers is to keep your add-ons updated. Verify them once WildStar gets updated and make sure they still work. And if they don't work, fix them and get them updated, because chances are people will be desperately using them.
Well, there's also that, but you also need to keep in mind security considerations. It is up to the developers of this IP. It is on their shoulders to make certain that what they produce in an API that allows anyone to create anything that actually interacts with even some code or pulls code from the server in order to give us information like different chat logs or DPS meters or weak auras or whatever, all of that stuff is pulling the servers for information in order to ensure you have access to it. Because of the fact that we're giving literally the entire world any access they want to interact with it, they need to make certain it's secure. Now, if they do not fix insecurities as they are found, they are doing a huge disservice. So if the API core bumps up to, let's say, 11.4 because they've just found a strange Lua thing that was just discovered and they patch it, they need to ensure that any system or any add-on that was using 11.3 doesn't function anymore to prevent that security issue from being present.
Yes. And what it might be is that you might find that some older add-ons will still work if you override that deactivation, but some add-ons that use specific functions might just stop working completely or not work as intended.
Yep.
Really good question from Maino, I believe it is. I was going to have some Pepsi. Yeah, Manio.
I'll read the question. You have some Pepsi. I'll read the question because I'm going to let you handle this. We're both drinking the same thing, except I put something in mine. But anyway, the question is, when are they going to optimize the game engine? I get under 20 FPS even when being alone at Exile's starting area on an i5 8GB GTX 660 with an SSD setup. I will start off by saying everyone who has made mention of this is pretty much right. Game optimization is currently starting, but it is usually the very last thing they do to the engine. They know what buttons they need to tick to optimize it. They know how they need to do it. But to do it, they need to get everything else to a situation that they're quite content with or happy with. And in all honesty, if you're getting 20 frames per second, there are a couple of things you might want to try. When it is incredibly busy during a beta weekend, which is going to get even more stuffed with space as time progresses because we're getting closer and closer to that launch, and hello, PAX just happened. So some people who've never heard of this game before have just had their eyes open and revealed to it. So it's going to get much more populous on the servers. There are a couple things you can do. And this is why I love the fact that the entire UI system is an add-on. Go in, turn off your combat log. So you're not getting the constant stream of combat logs. That helps. Oddly enough, that actually helps in some cases with FPS. But, there are things. Go in, tweak, and test them. And if you are curious enough, the forums on the WildStars forums, I should say, have some people go, I've tried this tweak, I've tried this optimization thing on my side. And by doing that, you're actually revealing to the developers, we think there might be either a leak here or there's something that's coming from this particular add-on that is causing a problem. But again, the community is working together to go, hey, you're having a problem, try this. So I'm going to
Yeah.
leave that with that, and then I'm going to let Gazzy talk because I guess he should.
Okay. So, two things. First of all, make sure you download the latest NVIDIA beta drivers that have come out. They were released either Monday or Tuesday this week. If you're running GeForce Experience, then tick the box to say show me the beta drivers and download that, install it. That gives you between 20 and 50% performance increase in a number of different games. So that's the first, very, very first thing I would do. The second thing is that WildStar, Mark Humes, Anlath, the UK community manager, has already said they have a optimization A team currently running on WildStar. They have made some improvements to the low end system. So we're talking probably Sandy Bridge or lower.
Wow.
And people are experiencing performance improvements at that end, and we're talking probably the GTX 300, 400 range of graphics cards. As beta progresses, they're starting to apply those tune-ups to the higher-end machines and higher-end graphics cards. So I'll give you an example. Currently on my machine, which is a Core i7 4770K, overclocked to 3.9 at the moment, with a GTX 780, also overclocked, running off a Samsung SSD. I get about 50 frames a second in Ilium when it's busy, which is not bad, but could be better. So I'm still expecting performance improvements to happen as well. The thing I would say is keep at it. Keep an eye on things and keep at it. Don't be afraid to drop graphic settings down if you feel that they would help your playing performance. And I'm really hoping that someone releases an add-on that allows you to do quick slide settings between screenshot and high FPS for combat and stuff like that, and raiding and so on.
You heard him. Get on that.
I would expect to see a significant performance increase before the game goes live, because they have a crack team working on it at the moment.
Absolutely. And again, there are like little bits of code that are out there for things like turning down spell effects, which is not built into a slider yet. So, you know, you can look around in the forums and there are tweaks available, and you just put them into your little chat box and play around with them, tweak them, find the one that's going to work best for you. But yeah, this is the beauty of a beta. But yes. So, all right. Now, we've basically been here for a very long time. We started late, mainly because of the fact, like I said, we wanted everybody to catch up on the WildStar podcast. PAX thing. PAX panel. I'm just going to ask you one last question, and then we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to absolutely everyone, and thank you guys for showing up. You know, I did have a question come in, and this is just the last question I'm going to leave you with. This came in to us through voice at MMOBuff.TV. It's from James Burke Fraser, who has asked, Carbine has worked hard at adding some community building features into the game. What one feature would you add or subtract to increase community in the WildStar launch? And I throw that out to you guys as well who are watching. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. So, what would be the one thing that you would either add or remove for community?
I would have something like guild monuments. Not guild housing, because I think guild housing is a really blasé concept, as in, yeah, we'll just have a few buildings up which are kind of a little bit uninteresting and somewhere that the guild can hang out, but, well, we've got our own housing plots. Why do we need a guild one? I would really like the idea of something like guild monuments. Maybe have a holo projector in the middle of Ilium where you can have, say, the top 10 raiding guilds and the top 10 PvP guilds. Their emblems would be shown along with the achievements that they've managed. That kind of thing I think would be really cool and help to build that kind of server community, much more so than say, yeah, we've got this place we can hang out where we've got Experiment X82's head on a spike and stuff like that. It doesn't really do it for me.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I would literally turn it not necessarily into, say, a guild's housing option. I would like
Hmm.
to actually sort of like what they do with war plots. You have your war plot, you bring it, you slam it down across from someone else's war plot, you go
Mm.
head to head. I'd actually like to see a guild neighborhood where when I look up, I see, my DPS lead's house. When I look over here, I see our latest trialist's house. When I look over there, I see all of it. And I'd love to have the ability to just kind of map it, kind of build something from it. And maybe in the
Mm.
very center of this neighborhood universe that I'm building, you have the Wallow achievements or the heads on a spike. Can you imagine that? Because of the way
Hmm.
that WildStar works, could you imagine you have all of the guilds and everything all in one giant neighborhood, and then you have in the very center this sort of square plot of land, and all along the boundary you just see piked heads of monsters and robots and things that their guild has completely dominated. And maybe you've won enough war plots that you're able to take, I don't know, the Exiles banner and slam it down as a trophy as well, or the Dominion banner and slam that down. Just the concept of having one area that is upkept by the entire community, maybe through the guild taxation system that they have built into the game. You can turn it on and off. Don't panic. But maybe through that kind of a system, they pay for the upkeep of the plugins. And that is where that portal that takes you to the raid that gives you a buff sits. And that is where you have your guild meetings, where everyone is sitting there drinking from the bartender that is a mannequin using, gear that people could just grab if they're interested in. I mean, just the idea of a communal space to have role play events, to just completely develop your community as a whole makes me excited. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. I don't know if it will ever be possible. But if you are listening, devs, and I know you do, please, can we have a place for our guild? So I can just stick a Chewa's head on a pike and go, we kill the Chewa. Now, we don't have to take it that extreme. We can just leave it to bosses and things like that. But still,
Hmm.
just the visual concept is exciting. So, but yes, there's your answer for you. It's not a matter that we would remove anything, it's we'd actually add to it. And I think that alone explains why we see potential in WildStar, because the foundation seems to be strong, that on top of it, the right bricks laid can make this game incredible. Now, Gazzy, do you want to
Hmm.
go do all of the social go do stuffs and then we'll say bye-byes?
Okay, so you can follow the show at MMOBuff on Twitter. Oh, God, you can tell it's been a long day, can't you?
I
You
can.
can,
That's why I put you on the spot.
yeah, you can follow both Pseudo and myself on Z Twitters by looking underneath our names on the various things on the screen, and that tells you how you can find us on Z Twitters and do that thing. You can also find the YouTube on YouTube/MMOBuff, and the Facebook at Facebook/MMOBuff, and the Anouk at
Slash
anouk.com/.
company. Slash company slash MMO buff.
Okay, so yeah, Anouk awkward, but there we go. We love them. We love
We
them.
love a nuke. We
Um,
really do.
and with that, I'm gonna go and get some coffee because it's been a long day. I've been up since 6 a.m. this morning, and it is now 21:54, which in other words spells late. Things I do for WildStar.
I'm not going to make a comment because I've been up a little too long, and we'll just leave it at that. Smiley face. Yes, as a reminder to everybody. In fact, screw it. Guess what, folks? Tuesday, next week. You guys remember Aether? Yeah, Troy's on the campfire. And apparently he's got a special guest. That's all I'm saying.
Mm.
So, for those of you who missed the gorgeous Aether, he will be back. And he's coming in a different manner. He'll fly in on a unicorn. No. But he is going to be there. So, yes, just want to throw that out there. And of course, Gazzy, it has an absolute dream as always to speak with you, to share love, passion, and everything for WildStar. It is exceptional. I know that you are tired. I myself am sitting here going, I'm a little teapot, short and stout. And I'm like, at this point, I kind of think it's time for us to go, 'cause things are gonna get crazy. But yes.
Yes.
So, big hearts to all of you guys. Thank you all for showing up. Do me a favor. If you guys have questions that you really want us to dig into, if you have concepts about WildStar that you want us to beat around, we're not afraid to sit here and go, we don't agree with the choice they've made. We're not afraid to do that. So if you want to bring something for us to debate, send it to voice@MMOBuff.TV. I will let you know that depending upon certain items that might not be brought back from PAX, people's questions who we pick to answer from that email address might get something. Just saying.
Yeah, that depends on the old Misper and his ability to actually bring stuff back from America.
Yes.
Not being cynical or anything, but...
He only took 2 suitcases with him. I am really curious as to how he's going to bring back everything. As I'm Swagzilla, he just said to me, I'm trying to get you all the swag. And I'm sitting there going, ooh, I get to give away swag. Wait a second. How is he going to get it back here? You know what I mean? So, yeah. But... Yom. But yes,
Till next week.
Big heart until next week. And remember, guys, we have shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Our Wednesday show will be changing. Our last version of Top Draw in the format that it's in now was going to be next week. And yeah, that'll be interesting in its own right. But thank you so much for watching episode 20, Non-Trivial WildStar, which it really, really isn't. All the decisions they make are definitely non-trivial. So a huge, huge thank you to all of you, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Greetings, everyone. Pseudo here. Thanks for watching Cosmotronic, episode 20, The Non-Trivial WildStar. Gazzy and I discussed an awful lot this episode. It's definitely one that's well worth watching, especially since it was right after the PAX panel. If you have any questions, comments, or anything like that, please leave them below. We'll take care of them as soon as possible. Of course, if you like this full episode, go ahead, click like, share, and subscribe. Talk to you soon. Toodle pip.